Picture this. Your boss calls you in, grins, slides a piece of paper your way and says, "Hey, great news, you got a raise." You're pumped. You celebrate. Splurge on the really good pizza. But then 6 months pass, you check your bank account and, wait, how are you even poorer than before the raise? Same job, higher salary, more zeros on the paycheck, but somehow less money for, well, life. This isn't just a math mistake. It's not bad luck either. Nope, this is something with a name, stagflation. It's like a monster that just gobbled up your raise before you even got to enjoy it. Here's the kicker. Back in the 1970s, the brightest economists stared down this beast, shrugged, and basically said, yeah, we actually have no clue how to fix this. Yep, there's an academic word for it, stagflation. And honestly, it's one of the few things in economics that makes policymakers want to drop everything and go grow cabbages in the countryside. By the end of this, you'll either be furious about how things were run for most of your life, or you'll finally get why your parents look spooked every time someone mentions the oil crisis. Either way, once you know this stuff, you can't unknow it. Okay, first, let's take a look at some basic economy stuff. Think of the economy as having two main moods. First one, everything's awesome. People have jobs. They're out spending money. Businesses rake in cash. So they hire even more folks. Those new hires start spending too. It's a big happy loop where everyone acts like they totally get how their 401k works. They probably don't, but hey, who does? Second one, things go south, recession time. People lose jobs, so they stop spending. Businesses start bleeding money, so they lay off more workers. Prices drop because honestly, who can afford anything now? It's a downer for sure. Still, economists have a playbook for this. Print some cash, lower interest rates, try to get the economy moving again. It takes some time, but eventually, things bounce back. Here's what economists were dead sure about for most of the 20th century, almost like it was some unbreakable law. Inflation and unemployment always move in opposite directions. When the economy's rolling and businesses are hiring left and right, inflation climbs. It just makes sense. People have work, they've got money to spend, and all that money chases the same stuff, so prices go up. If the economy tanks, inflation drops. Again, makes sense. Less money floating around, demand dries up, prices settle down. They called this the Phillips Curve. Economists loved it. You'd see it slapped on chalkboards, printed in textbooks, used to steer whole countries. Its job was pretty basic. Just show what happens to one thing when the other changes. But then came the 1970s, and the Phillips Curve, it simply disappeared. Unemployment hovered around 5%. Honestly, life seemed pretty steady. Economists were patting themselves on the back, convinced they'd crack the code. Fast forward 10 years though, and inflation was over 12%. Unemployment had climbed past 7. By 1980, inflation almost hit 14.5%, and unemployment kept inching up. The economic model that was supposed to save the day, it just sort of sat there, completely useless, like reaching for a fire extinguisher, only for it to spray flames instead of putting them out. How did the economy just toss out its own playbook? All right, picture this. It's October 1973. The U.S. has thrown its support behind Israel in the Yom Kippur War. The Arab oil-producing countries? Not thrilled, to put it mildly. So they do something bold, almost petty. They shut off the oil. And not just a little bit. We're not talking, hey, we're running low. No, they slap a full-stop embargo on the U.S. and its buddies. Just no more oil. Here's the thing. Oil's not just about filling up your car. It's in everything. It ships your bananas, builds your shampoo bottle, keeps factories humming, and makes sure your boss stays toasty while she's giving you bad news. So, when oil prices jumped from $3 a barrel to 12 practically overnight, bam! Suddenly, the price of just about everything shot up. That's what you call a supply shock. Now, let's understand that with an example. Imagine that you are running a pizza place. You sell your pizzas for $10 and everything's going great. Then, out of nowhere, your cheese supplier jacks up their prices threefold. Let's say all the dairy cows decided to go on strike. Suddenly, it costs you $15 just to make a single pizza. Now you're stuck. Either bump up your prices or shut the doors for good. So you raise prices. Customers complain. A few stop ordering. Business slows down, so you have to let one of your delivery guys go. Congrats, you've just whipped up a little micro-stagflation inside your pizza shop. Prices shot up, jobs disappeared, and your pizza economy took a nosedive. Now imagine every business in America going through that at the same time. That was 1973. Thing is, oil isn't just fuel for your car. It moves your food, turns into plastics, powers factories, and heats up your office so your boss can keep firing you in comfort. When oil prices jumped overnight from about $3 to $12 barrel, suddenly everything cost more to make. That right there is a supply shock. Of course, the government jumped in to help. The economy was slowing. People were losing their jobs, so they reached for the usual fixes, cut interest rates, spend more, put cash in people's hands, try to jumpstart everything. And that's exactly what they did. But there was a catch. Prices were already climbing because of the oil shock. So now you've got even more money chasing the same few goods. Not enough stuff to go around, but way more dollars in the mix. So inflation just got worse. The root problem, the fact that there simply wasn't enough oil, never got fixed. All that new money did was create some jobs for a moment, but then prices kept rising, and those jobs vanished again anyway. It's like treating a bullet wound with a Band-Aid made out of bullets. Remember that guy who finally got a raise but somehow still had less money in the end? Here's what happened. Sure, wages went up. The government pushed for that. Nixon even froze prices and wages for a while, had to let them go eventually, then watch things spiral again. But prices? They shot up way faster, so you end up with a bigger paycheck, but it doesn't stretch as far. Yeah, you see a higher number on your pay stub, but your life feels tighter. That's stagflation for you. It messes with your head. The numbers say you're ahead, but your wallet says otherwise. So, at some point, folks in Washington figured regular suffering needed its own scoreboard. Enter economist Arthur Okun, who actually cooked up something called the misery index. It's just what you think it is. You grab the inflation rate, add the unemployment rate. That's your misery score. Most of the time, it hangs around 7 or 8. During Nixon's years, it jumped to 13.6. Under Gerald Ford, it shot up to 19.9. Ford even started a campaign called Whip Inflation Now, where he basically begged Americans to stop spending money. The slogan was win. Spoiler, it didn't. Jimmy Carter's turn, the misery index blasted up to 21.98. That's the economic version of discovering the house fire is actually burning inside the walls. Here's where it gets nasty, the trap. When inflation starts running wild, the central bank cranks up interest rates. Suddenly, borrowing money gets pricey. People and businesses pull back on spending, and that cools prices down. Inflation drops. But here's the catch. Those same high rates slam the brakes on business growth. Companies stop hiring, or worse, let people go. You tame inflation, but now you've got more people out of work. Flip it the other way. Unemployment climbs, so the bank drops interest rates. Cheap money floods in, people start spending, jobs pop up again, but now you've thrown fuel on the fire. More money chases the same goods, and prices shoot up. Inflation just gets worse. No matter which lever the government pulls, it messes something up. That's the real trick of stagflation. It's not just painful, it snatches your control away. Suddenly, the usual fixes don't fix anything. How did it all wrap up? How did that wild 70s stagflation finally disappear? Honestly, it went out kicking and screaming. In 1979, Paul Volcker took over as chairman of the Federal Reserve, and he pulled off something that, politically speaking, seemed downright nuts. He pushed interest rates all the way to 20%. Yeah, 20% mortgages shot up to 18%. Small businesses couldn't borrow a dime. The economy slid into a harsh planned recession. Unemployment jumped above 10%. Volcker pretty much chose to kick off a smaller disaster just to stop the bigger one. His plan actually worked. Inflation cracked. By the mid-80s, the economy bounced back. Economists now treat Volcker like a legend. The guy who intentionally crashed the economy is hailed as a hero. I mean, seriously, try telling me economics isn't just philosophy strapped to a calculator? Here's something you don't see in the textbooks. Everyone likes to say the stagflation of the 70s ended because Volcker raised interest rates, but that's only part of the story. The real turning point? Oil got cheaper. Seriously, just sit with that for a second. Once the original supply shock ran its course and oil prices dropped, everything else, the policies, the government efforts started working better. That's what made the difference. The whole mess, the broken Phillips curve, the misery index, silly campaigns like Win, sky-high 20% interest rates, 2 recessions back-to-back, it all traced back to oil and the decisions of one global cartel. So, the whole identity of the 1970s economy? It was basically written by people who controlled oil wells. Now flash forward to today, 2024 and 2025. People are debating stagflation again. Economists, the Fed, the IMF, everybody's asking if we're right back there. We've got a pandemic that tore up supply chains, a war in Ukraine that sent energy prices soaring, and central banks cranking up rates faster than they have since those days. The same ingredients that gave us the roughest economic stretch of the last century, they're not just history lessons, they're a to-do list waiting to be checked off. The raise that ends up leaving you with less. The button that finally snapped off the remote. The fire extinguisher that somehow sprays fire. Yeah, that's stagflation. People like to act like it's just some dry topic for economists, but stagflation has real bite. It's why 2 US presidents couldn't keep their jobs. It's also why your parents take interest rates way too seriously. And next time someone promises you a raise, there's only one question that matters. A raise compared to what? If this made you uncomfortable, good. Share it with someone who currently thinks their raise is going to save them. And tell me in the comments, the last time you got a raise, did your life actually get better? Or did the prices just catch up?